Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is my favorite time of the year. We are at the end of December, and the California Association of Realtors has released their new and revised forms. And so there's a whole bunch of notable things that have come out, but I'm going to handle them one at a time. So we're going to start off, we're going to talk about the buyer representation agreement, and we're going to talk about that here now for just 1 second. But let's go ahead and take a look. I want to show you first off, I want to show you what the proposed changes were going to look like. So let's go to that really quick here. So here we are. The first thing I want to mention right here where it says revised date, you want to make sure you're using the current forms. And part of the reason behind that is that with the current forms, you have the user protection agreement from the California Association of Realtors, right? And plus, you know that as we go through life, we create new forms, do all kinds of stuff to make it more parity between the buyer and the seller, but also to protect us as real estate agents. So I'm noticing here on page one, I'm looking for the red line version. So here I am down in paragraph 2B1, and it says, or if checked, SFR, which is single family residential, is excluded from this agreement. Okay, so let's go ahead. I want to pop over and take a look at what it looks like live. And the reason I'm doing this is because, we don't know when we're looking at the buyer representation agreement, there are some changes that are done to it. Again, I'm going to go back over to make sure I've got you on the right page. So here it is. Now this is the PDF version, and notice right here in 2B1, I see my change. So back over to the live one, I'm going to see where did I go here? Right here, single family residential is excluded from this agreement. So remember, sometimes our changes are very subtle, sometimes they're not. For example, when we came out with this new version of the buyer representation agreement, that was not a subtle change. That was a huge thing. But that's what that looks like at this moment right now. So that's a minor change, and I'm going to take us back over to the draft agreement again and look for more red line stuff. So we added in there broker created compensation schedule under cancellation rights. If it's an exclusive agreement, which means you agree to work with me and I agree to work with you, then cancellation is effective either 30 days or how many days not to exceed 30 after receipt. Okay. And so if I go back over to my original version, that's the live version, then I can see down here where cancellation is, that language is included. And now, just because it's on the red line version doesn't mean it's incorporated in the release. So you want to be definitely watching out for that. Okay, so back over to my live version. So now I've got buyer does not have sufficient funds to pay the broker. And so that's kind of new language in there, something that CAR put in because in some situations, the buyer doesn't have the money, but they do need to have a contractual relationship between themselves and the buyer's agent. Okay. So remember that the buyer representation agreement is a two purpose form. One of them is the one that everybody goes crazy about is compensation. But remember, the really more important element is that we're creating our contract between us, ourselves, the buyer and the buyer's agent, and now we really do have an agency agreement with them. So buyer's broker obligation to represent buyer in transactions contingent upon a seller's agreement to pay the amount of compensation in paragraph 2E1. Now remember, when the buyer writes their offer, they're sending over the request for compensation, whatever that number might be, and they are telling the agent here in this agreement whether they have the money if the seller refuses to pay it. So I'm not seeing that. Again, I'm a broker practitioner. I'm not seeing a lot of people refusing commissions. I am seeing a lot of people who are assuming how much the commissions have been and how much they should be or how much they will be. That part kind of irritates me just on an antitrust level. But okay, there we go. So there's the language in my buyer representation agreement, and we've already confirmed it's in the main agreement as well. Let's go ahead. I'm going to pop back over to my regular version here, and I'm going down to paragraph 4C, which is this is what it says right now, but let's go back and take a look at what the red line was. The timing of such payment is subject to the terms of paragraph 4D, which is this language down here, which we didn't change. We just had that added that into it. So scrolling down, we get down to paragraph 5B, and in here, the broker shall be entitled to compensation if during the representation period the buyer enters into a contract to acquire property. And so again, I'm going to go ahead and without making things too confusing for everybody, I'm going to go down here and pull up here's the language. Buyer enters into a contract to acquire property. I think it's a pretty safe bet that all that information has carried over at this point. So let's go back over to the draft version. So here we go, and we're going to scroll down. So as you can see, everybody gets all crazy because we just came out with the new format for the buyer representation agreement. But here in December, the changes really aren't that significant. I think we move forward in life and we get good at explaining the form. I am rewriting my buyer representation agreement for DRE approval. I will be teaching it at the Orange County Association of Realtors here coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. Paragraph number 15, we can see, or as otherwise specified in 2F above. But one of the bigger changes, and we're doing this across a lot of our forms, and that is where we're talking about that entity buyer. So we changed our representative capacity language just a little bit, and so we've added what you see in here today to make it more thorough and better explained. If you're not sure how to fill out this part of the form, remember that when you go into parties, which is up at the um, parties, which is in the I'm sorry, on the very first page up at the top, then you'll have that section where it says parties, big button there next to documents. You'll open that up. You put anyway. Bottom line, look at my YouTube video that I created on the subject, and you'll have it all right in front of you. Okay, so that's the way that one works. Let's take a look, see if they made any other changes. I think that's the last of the significant ones. But again, look at that date down here at the bottom. We want to make sure that we're using the more current form. And that pretty much sums up our buyer representation agreement. And I hope I was of some help for you. But again, if you need to get me for anything, my name is Kevin Burke. I am a JD, which means I'm a non-practicing lawyer. And then there's my telephone number. There's my email address. Please reach out. I am happy to help you in any way that I can. And I thank you all for being here today. Have a wonderful day.